So this is the video going over the Chapter 12 free response review packet. Okay, so it's just one question, and you can see it's SPDC because I say do the data provide convincing statistical evidence. You also see a two-way table, so you know automatically it's either homogeneity or dependence. And truthfully, you could do it either way. And on the AP scoring guide, they allow it to go either way depending on how you phrase it. So you could think homogeneity. You could say there are, that's 2 samples, 1 variable. So we could look at sample 1 is the number who chose Choco Zooties. So kids who chose Choco Zooties would be sample 1, and kids who chose Apple Zooties would be sample 2. And we're looking to see is the distribution of what ad they saw the same for the 2 groups. So that would be if you're doing homogeneity. If you were doing independence, you would see this just as 2 variables and 1 big group of kids. And variable 1 is what ad they saw, what type of ad they saw, and variable 2 is what type of snack they chose. So you could do it either way. All right, so let's go down and look at some more details. So here's their SPDC process. Now, they did it mainly as homogeneity. The proportion of children who would choose each snack is the same for each type of ad viewed. Or it's totally fine to do independence, where you say there is no association between the 2 variables, and there is an association. You could have done homogeneity or independence, but do make sure that whichever one you picked, that your ho and ha match the one you picked, that you're not mixing the 2 up. For conditions, we have that they were randomly assigned, and expected counts are all at least 5. Now, one thing that you'll see as you scroll down into the details of what they need explicitly to give you full credit, they were surprisingly picky about a few things in here. One is that they wanted randomly assigned because it's in an experiment and it got randomly assigned to groups. If you had said random sample, they would not have given you the points. So if you had just said like SRS check, you would not have gotten the points. They did want randomly assigned. They wanted to use correct vocab there. Also, for the expected counts, they did want to see what they were. They wanted a table of expected counts. So on my test, I'm not going to grade for that. But FYI, on the real AP test, as part of your work, you should include your expected counts somewhere. Okay. For step 3, there's your specific equation, and there's your chi-squared and your p-value. When you scroll down and look exactly for what they're looking for, they don't actually require you to have the specific equation. What they needed was the chi-squared value, they needed the p-value, and they needed degrees of freedom, which in this case, what number of rows is 3, number of columns is 2. So that's 2 times 1 or 2. So they would need degrees of freedom or 2 as well. Now, if you just did it on your calculator, those are the 3 things that are on your final screen: chi-squared, p-value, and degrees of freedom. So just write down what's on your full screen and you would have gotten everything you need. And then step 4, here's your conclusion. Because p is very small, we reject the null. We do have convincing statistical evidence that the proportions who choose each snack differ on which ad is viewed. Or you could say we have convincing statistical evidence that there is an association between type of ad viewed and type of snack chosen. All right. So let me write that down, actually. So you could do, or there is an association between type of ad viewed and type of snack chosen. Okay, so that would also be fine if you did a chi-squared test of independence. Okay, so for B, they have their kind of layout of what you have in here. I think it's easier to talk through if we look at the original chart. I kind of wrote some numbers in there. So I'm going up to this chart here and I'll zoom in. So I put some totals on there. I put the totals specifically of the row. So there are 25 kids in each category. And if you do your percentages of who chose Choco Zooties versus Apple Zooties, the percentages for Choco Zooties versus neither are really pretty close. So showing the ad for Choco Zooties didn't really help because actually, it looks like it made it worse. Like less of them chose Choco Zooties after seeing the ad. And really, they're pretty close. So there wasn't much of a significant effect there. But there was a significant effect with the Apple Zooties commercial. So if they, so if I look, maybe I'll just look over on Apple Zooties. Only 12% chose Apple Zooties when they didn't see any ad, but that jumped up to 48% once they saw the ad. So these numbers are very different. So it seems that the Apple Zooties ad is pretty effective. It did increase numbers of kids wanting that snack. The Choco Zooties ad either had no significant difference or, if anything, it made things a little bit worse. Okay, so if you go to their description of kinds of things they're looking for, they are talking about exactly those things. And they are writing it out in words. Just putting your numbers inside your chart would not be enough. But they are specifically pulling numbers out of the chart and finding percentages and comparing them to show that the Choco Zooties ad wasn't very useful, but the Apple Zooties ad was. Okay, so I highlighted a few more things down here. Right, so it's acceptable if you did association independence. Other things that could lose you points, if in your HO you referred to the sample data, that would be bad because HOs are always about populations, not about samples. They wanted they wanted you to report the expected counts. This is a kind of, I don't know, don't worry about that. It's a different way to look at the condition and it just makes things complicated. Again, if you used random sample, they would have taken points off. They wanted random assignment. I think we talked about that. These are the only things they really needed in the do, which happen to be the 3 things that are on your calculator screen when you make the calculator do it. What else did I want to say? Okay, and then really what they were looking for a full credit answer on that very last one is that your conclusion that A had little effect and B did have an effect, and it's specifically supported by observed proportions or counts from the table. So you couldn't just say the conclusion, you had to include the numbers or the percentages in your description to back up what you're saying. Okay, I think that's it. And then it's just a bunch of repeat. Okay.